you're on.
Good evening and welcome to the December 20th, 2021 Select Board meeting. Would you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is the acceptance and correction of minutes from 12/6/2021, public and non-public.
I'll make a motion, we accept the 12/6/2021 public and non-public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second.
Any discussion? Now, where Collis is on the phone, folks, we have to have a roll call vote. So I'll call your names out, yea or nay. Mark?
Yes, sir.
Myself is a yes.
Abstain.
Yes. Chet, you weren't here. Collis?
Yes.
So 4-0-1. Announcements? I don't have any announcements. Derek, do you?
I do not.
Let's start with the Police Chief Highway Safety Committee. Is it okay if we start with that, or you want to
Yeah.
wait?
No, you can do that one.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
And
evening,
we are
Chief.
on tab 4.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Collis, can you hear me?
Yep, done.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. So, highway safety. Start with the first one we went over. The same one's in your packet. Is the Parker Station, Gorham Pond Road. So there was a request that came in to put a stop sign on Parker Station coming from New Boston, heading towards Goffstown. And the reason why was as cars are coming down Gorham Pond Road and they stop at the stop sign, there's some pretty heavy hedges and it really is a blind spot for as people are turning left off of Gorham Pond Road. Parker Station curves behind those hedges. Years ago, I guess they looked into this, and those the residents of that location did not want to cut their hedges back. Highway Safety listened to or talked about it. They discussed it, and they recommended putting the stop sign there. But then there was another mention of making it a four-way stop to have Parker Station on each side, Gorham Pond, and Locker Road being a four-way stop, rather than just having Gorham Pond and Parker Station just being that two-way stop. There was a recommendation just to make it more consistent and having it a four-way stop. So the Highway Safety Committee voted 5-0 and recommended a four-way stop at Parker Station and Gorham Pond Road.
Derek, is it okay if we just take these as we go along?
Yes.
Is there anybody who wants to talk about this one? Mark, you were there?
Nope. The committee had some discussion about it. We talked about the bushes, we talked the difference of, as Chief Serena just said, a T stop sign versus a regular one. We went with the four-way, which we're all in favor of.
Okay. Anybody else? Motion, Mark?
Motion to make a four-way stop sign on Parker Station Road, Gorham Pond Road, and Locker Road with the appropriate advance.
I'll second that.
Okay.
With a comment.
With what? With a comment?
Yeah, if I could, I think this is the appropriate thing to do. I go through that intersection a lot, and unlike a lot of intersections in town, it's not clear which is the primary road and which is the secondary road at this intersection. So people come into this intersection, if you're doing a two-way stop, I don't think it would serve its purpose. So I think the four-way stop is clearly the best way to go.
Thank you. Anybody else? So we have a motion by Mark and it was seconded by Collis. We'll call a roll call. Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Myself is a yes.
Yes.
Chet? And Jim, yes.
Yes.
We have 5 yeses.
So this will go to public hearing for ordinance change, so we will prepare that.
Chief?
All right. Yes, thank you. And the next one was, we had a woman who came in that lives on Rochambeau. Her concern is she would like, or she was requesting to have a left-hand turn from Rochambeau onto Mass Road. If you look at the pictures in your packet, and you look at the road of Rochambeau coming into Mass Road, the mouth of Rochambeau is significantly wider than most of the side streets in Canarville. Her concern is that she's coming off erosion road, making that left-hand turn, most cars kind of tend to go to the right a little bit, stop at the stop sign, and make a wide left-hand turn. The Highway Safety Committee it had a pretty significant discussion regarding that, whether the road was wide enough, whether it would cause more confusion for just that neighborhood. Basically, what came out of this was the Highway Safety Committee took no action, but they voted that they wanted to have DPW at least order a traffic engineering study prior to the upcoming Mass Road work. Mass Road is coming up to the 10-year plan and it's due for an overlay in 2023. So we'd be asking Adam's crew to look into that prior to us actually doing any left-hand turn markings, because part of this is we're also looking at College Road, and as you come down College Road, that's also kind of feeds into that intersection, so that might be a whole new intersection design.
So no action needs to be taken on that.
I think the committee just would like Adam to have the traffic study done prior to the Mass Road work being done.
And that's next year?
I believe
It's due for overlay in 2023.
So when we budget for the overlay, that's when you would budget for a traffic study?
Or you'd be doing the traffic study next year.
I'd probably try to pay somebody in 22. It's gonna be shorter money for just one single intersection, but pay in 22 and then build it into the 23 budget if it's significant.
So let's take a motion on putting that into the, having DPW do a traffic study at that intersection.
I'll make a motion that we allow the DPW to do a traffic study on the corner or intersection of Mass Road and Rochambeau Street in next year's budget, or next year.
A second?
Second.
Yeah, I'll second. This is Collis. I have a comment on it.
I got seconded by Chet Collins, but go ahead with your comment.
Okay, Adam, can you make sure when they look at that, to look at the right-of-ways, to make sure that, you know, the geometry and the right-of-way widths would accommodate a left turn? Because if it can't, then you may be looking at takings, which is a whole different issue that we need to consider. So, that, you know, that's an important item to look at.
Absolutely. There's also a couple of business entrances that may or may not be beneficial to be one-way versus a two-way, right, so close to an intersection. So there's a lot to look at there for sure.
Okay, thanks, Adam.
Yep.
We have a motion by Mark, seconded by Chet. Any further questions? Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Myself is a yes.
Yes.
It's 5-0-0. Can we just take a break here? I think it's 10 past.
Yep.
And at 10 past, we have public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Go right ahead, Chief.
Okay, thank you. The next one we discussed was a left-hand turn flashing light from Mass Road into the Planet Fitness or the old Shaw's Plaza. A resident frequently leaves her residence in the morning very early, goes to Planet Fitness and gets stuck at the red light turning into Shaw's Plaza. Highway Safety looked at it. It's pretty cut and dry. Most of those intersections have flashing lights, so we talked to Highway and they're gonna go back and look at that, that setting and try to flash it yellow so she doesn't have to wait. Or most residents don't have to wait to turn left at that.
Yeah, you
that
sit there early in the morning.
You really do.
Right.
Right.
You know.
So basically, the only recommendation was DPW was to ensure the lights turn to flash from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. to follow with the other intersections in that that part of town.
Does that need a motion, Derek? No.
No, it doesn't.
so. We had, the next one was a request for a street light on Spring Street. Resident had requested the Highway Safety to look at some lighting issues on Spring Street. We went through and looked at that, talked about it, and we realized that there are already 2 street lights on that small dead-end street. There's one at the very end in the corner of Spring Street and Elm Street. There's another light that illuminates the parking lot of the veterinarian clinic, which is private. Based on all of that, the Highway Safety Committee voted to have no action on this this request. We emailed the resident and spoke about recommendations to have them reach out to Eversource, and they can speak to them about privately putting one up and paying that bill, and also installing their own safety security lights. So we had no action on that one.
All righty. Any questions? Anybody, the chief, on that stuff?
Nope.
Derek, we'll go on to your report.
Okay, we're at tab 6A. So you have your committee meeting scheduled for the next 2 weeks. A reminder that Town Hall and Library are both closed on Friday in observance of Christmas. Trash and recycling is on schedule this week. And on Saturday, both the library and transfer station are closed on Christmas Day. Next week, you have no meetings. On Friday of next week, Town Hall and Library closed in observance of New Year's. Trash and recycling is on schedule. And then New Year's Day, the library and the transfer station are closed. Your consent agenda, you have an employee status report for DPW truck driver new hire. You have one added this afternoon for a seasonal rehire. This is a seasonal truck driver rehire at DPW. You have a Lynchville Danish Parks drinking water project warrant in the amount of $2,862.90. You have the prosecutorial services contract with the town of Francistown. That needs a signature of the entire board. And then you have dispatch leases. You have one for Dunbarton Police, New Boston Police and Fire, and Ware Police and Fire. And then also there's a sidebar agreement between the town and New England Benevolent Association Local 24, the Patrolmen's Union.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Seconded by, motion by Chet, seconded by Jim. Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Myself is a yes.
Yes.
Chet? And Jim? Yes. 500 passes.
Thank you. At your next page, the Goffstown Fire and Rescue Association and the Professional Firefighters of Goffstown would like to donate the installation of holiday lights at both Fire Station 18 and Fire Station 19. This is would be an acceptance of a gift, as it's the services by the local company Lights Up Seasonal Lighting under RSA 31:19, Section 2.
Any discussion? Motion?
Motion to accept the gift of installation of holiday lights at Station 18 and 19 by Lights Up Seasonal Lighting of Goffstown from the Goffstown Fire Rescue Association and the Professional Firefighters of Goffstown, with an approximate value of $3,550 in accordance with RSA New Hampshire 31-19:2, Roman numeral 2.
Second.
I was waiting for that, Chet.
Donald jump at once.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing none. Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Myself is a yes. Chet?
Yes.
And Jim? Yes. Motion passes 500, and thank you for the donation.
Your next page, you have an out-of-state overnight travel request. This is for our one of our mechanics to attend emission system maintenance training in February at the Pierce Training Center in Florida. This would come out of the 2022 Fleet Maintenance Employee Development budget line. The total amount would be $375 for the class plus travel expenses.
Is this a shared expense? Because DPW, that person works for DPW, right?
It is, and typically the cost of any employee development for fleet would be fully out of the DPW. I do understand that as a Pierce would be typically a fire department apparatus, but they do the majority of the maintenance on that equipment.
We pass on expenses from DPW to fire department when we work on those, right? Is there a transfer?
That's
The expenses for the apparatus, so parts, or if it has to be out in town, of course, those bills get paid by the fire department. Personnel costs, we absorb in-house in DPW. Fleet maintenance does have $1,500 per year. The last couple of years we budgeted for employee development. Unfortunately, most of the last 2 years we haven't really had even an option to spend that money. So we're a little bit, I won't say behind, but we haven't had a chance to get any development for these folks. So this opportunity came up, and it's one of the few so far that I've seen that's spun back up for mechanics. So I would like to go. If we were in a pinch, I might lean on the fire chief a little bit more to see if he could help out. But as of right now, we haven't got any other money earmarked for mechanics yet.
Have we used that money this year?
Has not been used this year.
Can we encumber it or not?
And no, as it'd be a class fully in 2022, it really should be paid out of that year.
Okay. All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll make the recommendation, authorization for Brian Bugby to attend the Pierce Manufacturing Training in Bradenton, Florida, in what, February of 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. I have one comment on this. Do we want to put a person's name in there? What happens if we're specifically putting a name in, and if that person can't go for some reason, would we not be able to send somebody? Seeing it's specific, this amendment, this motion specifically mentions somebody's name.
Yeah, so I think you just say a mechanic from DPW would be, you could be, change the motion to that rather than a specific individual.
I'll amend my motion to make it that it's a mechanic from the Department of Public Works,
Okay.
and remove the
And
name.
you're okay with that, Jim?
Yep.
Okay. So, motion on the floor is to recommend a mechanic to attend the Pierce Manufacturing Training in Bradenton, Florida. We'll call for a vote. Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Myself say yes.
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 Motion passes 5-0.
That coincides with spring training.
Why'd you want to volunteer to go down or what?
The next item I'm going to ask the finance director, Danielle, because she's been working with GTV and IT on this specific item. Back in July, there was a lightning strike that caused a short of GTV equipment over at the studio. We did put in an insurance claim, and I'll let Danielle kind of fill you in on the specifics of that.
Good evening. So, as you can see in the packet, we've highlighted the background for you, but the lightning strike occurred in July, and it took some time for the claim to be processed because it was specialized equipment that our insurance had to outsource. So, in November, they provided us a statement of loss and partial payment for the equipment. They had depreciated the value of the equipment, and they noted in their letter that we could recover that depreciated value if we make a purchase of new equipment, and the new equipment purchase exceeds that value of the initial check. So, in looking through the options, GTV coordinator David Steffen and the IT systems administrator Brian Ray had researched suitable replacements. They met with the two companies that provide the equipment and have evaluated both of the offers. And at this point, they'd like to recommend moving forward with Telview and requesting that they waive the purchasing policy for a sealed bid on this piece of equipment using the insurance funds, and then any amount that would go above the insurance funds would be funded out of the GTV revolving fund.
It's $4,999. Is that how much it is? I'm trying to figure this out, how it's written up here. Or-
The upfront cost is $68,740.
$68,000.
Yes, $742.50.
So why is the reason we're going outside of purchasing policy?
Because there's only two manufacturers who have suitable equipment, and one of them is the current, and then the other is their competitor. So they don't have enough to get 3, and they didn't want to wait for a sealed bid process to go through, considering that both companies had already evaluated the equipment as part of the insurance claim, and both companies had already provided quotes as part of the insurance claim to the insurance company. So,
And how did those quotes come out compared to what we did?
so the first quote is the one that, well, the Telview quote is $68,742. The other quote was around $46,000, but it did not provide the same level of features, and they had concerns with the company's quality of service. They outsourced their service once it's installed, and the company has been not very responsive and helpful throughout the process, whereas the other company provided a very thorough quote that allowed them to itemize every single item and pick and choose if they needed to drop a service or if something was needed to be added.
I think, as I've stated, it's not new that I don't like this singles. We've been doing this a lot lately, and I don't think it's the right thing to do. I don't think, but taking what you've said as gospel that we're making the right decision, and that's the only way we can operate. I understand. So, somebody have questions? Motion?
Motion to go forward, move forward with GTV for the Telview equipment for the TV station.
And waive the,
Yeah, waive the upfront, the purchasing policy.
yeah, I'll second.
Okay, I'm not gonna try to repeat that. Any questions, discussion? Jim, go right ahead.
How do you know there's only 2 competitors? There's only 2 people that would bid on this?
Because of the regional, it's my understanding that the regional equipment distribution is limited to certain vendors, and these are the 2 vendors that are specialized in this equipment. So they had searched around to see what was available, and they found only the 2.
Okay, so there's some research.
Yes, and like I said, in this case, the quotes were both provided during the insurance process, so it wouldn't really be a sealed bid, even if we went to a sealed bid, because they've already seen each other's quotes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the motion was by Mark, it was seconded by Chet, right?
Yep.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Myself say yes.
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 5-0.
All right, tab 6F, we have discussed the purchasing policy quite a bit over the last year. Back in September, the board discussed limitations on the purchasing policy thresholds. Danielle did reach out to the town auditors for recommendations. The current limits are anything below 3,000 is a regular purchase. Anything between 3,000 and 10,000 requires 3 quotes. And then anything above 10,000 requires a sealed bid or RFP process. After talking with the auditors, they did say that it would be, I don't know if they recommended or, yeah, they recommended increasing the amounts, and you'll see this in the red line portion. To all quotes would be between 5,000 and just under 25,000, 24,999. Anything 25,000 or more would be sealed bids. Danielle added some language for what would qualify for verbal quotation guidelines so that we can properly document that. And then also in the red, on page 3 of the proposed changes of your purchasing policy, we've also provided some proposed language on technological enhancements. I think, as you've seen tonight, GTV cablecast server is a very specialized piece of equipment that needs to dovetail in with what we already have. We see similar items with server replacements or mass purchase of technology throughout the time, so we've proposed some language for technological enhancements, and the finance director having ability to waive a sealed bid process. And then there was one other substantial change on, I just gotta find the page. On page 4, under sealed bid and RFP, previously it was, departments could grab a state contract or cooperative purchase, again, operative being little s state, for any state. Danielle is recommending big state, state of New Hampshire only. The board could also consider regional, New England. We have received some feedback from some of the department heads that they would prefer to keep a little state in there so that they could pull from any state. But again, those are the recommendations from the auditor on the amounts and finance director on the other items.
Do you have that in writing from the auditor? Can you forward this, because I think I need a chance to look at this. I'm not comfortable with giving those limits like that. That's our job to watch how the spending's done, and I think those limits are quite a bit of an increase.
Yeah, and I believe when we had researched it, the last time those limits were adjusted was 1994. So there was some concerns about the cost of items changing, but we can certainly send you some information on that.
So we can send, I was going to say, if it's the board's pleasure, we can forward that to you and put this on for a future agenda item.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So Danielle, just a quick question was, in raising these limits, I'm assuming that it's for the purpose of efficiency?
Yes.
And quicker purchases? Do we think, you don't have to answer this now, we can wait until the next meeting, if we were to move these up, is there any reason to believe that we would be spending more, or is it simply just an efficiency issue?
It's simply just an efficiency issue. The departments still have to submit all their invoices to the board for approval, as you see in the weekly warrant.
Sure.
And it's really just a matter of departments are losing a lot of time on what we consider to be little purchases that may just barely exceed that $3,000 threshold. I mean, some of them going upwards closer to $5,000, but we're seeing a lot of them coming in at, $3,250, $3,500, $36,000,
Sure.
and they're just losing time trying to go through this whole process for something that's just kind of a normal purchase.
Carlos, did you have something?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. I'm not opposed to moving the limit. It's just the amount of the limit we're trying to move at one time, I think is a lot.
And the other thing too that was brought up for, in addition to the discussion of which states or regions might be considered, but we don't actually have any language in there about adding federal to there. So if there's a federal contract, is that something that we want to write in to be able to be piggybacked without going through?
I think we
Or?
want to be able to get,
As much,
pick everybody's
Yeah.
brain.
Yep.
I mean, that just makes sense to me.
Okay. So I can adjust that too for the next version.
And you stated that we review the bills and we sign off, but that's after the fact, so it can't, you can't do anything once they've already been bought, so we'll put that off to further meeting. Jim?
I just have a question. You just explained why the minimum was moved from 3 to 5, that makes sense. But why was the maximum, the big jump, like from 10 to 25,000?
That was primarily due to the efficiencies and the fact that that limit hadn't been changed in 20 years or so. And we're finding that going through the quotation process where you're obtaining 3 quotes, written quotes, is a viable way to determine a fair process and get through the process faster than creating specifications that then have to come to the board for review and then putting it out to bid, holding for a period of time, a couple weeks before the bids come in, then opening. It can really slow down the process for a purchase that's, again, not something big. If it's a vehicle or a product or anything that's 25,000 or over, that makes sense where you'd want to have that detail. But for regular purchases where a single item might just happen to cost, $20,000, is that really the direction that we wanted to continue in? And so the auditors had reviewed other policies in the area as well, and we discussed what might make sense, but that's just a recommendation.
Now, would this include anything that would go in CIP?
So CIP would still be going through that sealed bid process because it's 25,000 is the threshold, the minimum threshold for CIP.
Because we bought trailers, or we bought that UTV, things like that, we wouldn't have any input on something like that. If that limit was $25,000, the next thing you know, you know, we got another UTV or we got something
No.
going on. that-
Yeah, most CIP projects are 25,000. There is a provision for
Vehicles.
wheeled vehicles that are less than 20.
And we could put that
Exactly.
same language,
Yeah.
wheeled vehicles, into the purchasing policy if the board wanted,
Or it could
to
be
make sure that was clarified.
DPW could just run out and buy another landscape trailer and, you know, without even going through our process. So I think it's important that we still have the ability to look at that kind of stuff. So, all right, we'll bring that up at a future meeting, maybe in January when it's a little quieter.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a public hearing at 6:30 for tab 5.
In compliance with RSA 31:95-E, the Goffstown Select Board is conducting this public hearing to accept public input about a proposed donation of rail trail improvements from the Friends of the Goffstown Rail Trail, specifically for construction of 2/3 of a mile of rail trail between Lynchfield Park Road, Moose Club Park Road, having a worth of $90,000 as a result of a 2022 Recreational Trail Program grant from the New Hampshire Trail Bureaus. Did you want to discuss it? Or
No, I think,
$70,000 of the grant is from the Friends, of the Friends of the Goffstown Rail Trail, 20,000 cash matched, raised through private donations. We've discussed this a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yep.
Talking about the storage of the product at DPW. So I will open the public hearing. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak to this? David, you walked up here, did you want to talk?
Just that I'm very happy to be able to move forward with, once you favorably accept the donation. I had applied 3 times for this particular grant, and the 3rd time was a charm. So I'm hoping with a favorable decision by the board. And it will be a challenging project. At 2/3 or almost 7/10 of a mile, we will contract for it directly from the Friends of the Rail Trail. Like I said 2 weeks ago, the only involvement from Public Works will be the storage of the nitpack in their yard, which I will purchase from Mount Williams, and then the contractor will haul from Public Works yard to the work site.
Thank you.
Currently, as of last week, we finished a half mile of rail trail improvements behind the county buildings with the assistance of Public Works. And we're up to 70% of the 5.5 miles done. This project we're talking about for next fall will bring the trail up to 96% done.
Thank you.
And we can almost see the light at the end of the tunnel at that point, I think.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here that'd like to speak up to this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I need a vote. Vote to accept the
Accept the
funds.
donation. 70,000?
No, you're accepting the 90,000.
90,000.
The donation,
Yeah,
$90,000.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation, $90,000, the Goffstown Rail Trail improvements.
Second.
Okay, the motion was by Chet, seconded by Mark, to accept the 70,000 grant funds and 20,000 cash match from Friends of Goffstown Rail Trail. And we'll call a vote. Collis?
Yes, and I also want to thank David for all of his hard work on this. This is a big chunk of the project. Thank you, David.
Take a call. Mark?
Yes, sir.
Myself's a yes.
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 Jim's a yes. Motion passes 5-0-0.
Mr. Chair, just one more minute, please. Another significant part of the rail trail will be a connection to New Boston. And the concept of connecting these 2 rail trails on Route 114 has been a conceptual idea for quite a few years. Now that the New Boston Trail was finished last month, it's the correct time for us to move forward and formally start the process of connecting the two trails via 114. To that end, since the portion of 114 we're talking about from West Lawn Cemetery to Parker Station is in Gulfstown, it's DOT maintained road because it's outside the compact area. But it's in Gulfstown, so I'm taking the lead for the two trail organizations. I'm meeting with DOT tomorrow to start the process for them to formally recognize bicycle lanes on 114.
Okay.
And that will, if that is successful, then we'll have over 13 miles of rail trail from the center of New Boston into our village center, and then through Manchester into the center of Manchester, 13 miles long.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are on to,
I believe we're on 6H.
how about G?
G was purchasing policy?
No, I would request for planning board encumbrances, budget encumbrance.
Yep.
Okay, yes, sorry.
That's okay, it's usually me that screws up.
So at tab 6G, you have a, there's really, I guess, two items here. The planning board took a vote at their meeting on December 9th. They have reached out to one of our consulting engineering firms seeking assistance to go through their development and amend their development regulations to bring them up to date. The planner was able to get a contract which came in at the beginning of December for an amount of $11,000. The planning board has requested that the select board consider encumbering $11,000 from the 2021 budget. This would require a transfer of $8,500 from the full-time wages line in planning and zoning to the consulting services line. If the select board wishes to do that. And you have in your packet a copy of the proposed task order with the scope of services, as well as the memo from Danielle and a letter from the Goffstown Planning Board Chair.
Is this time to do this?
I think this would be an appropriate discussion to do this now before you get into the overall discussion on the encumbrances that's in your packet.
Collis?
Yeah, I'll speak to this. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, as the select board's rep on the planning board, I attended that meeting. I attended many in the past, and, you know, it's a real struggle with the development regulations. They really need to be looked at holistically and brought up to speed, and it's a big job. It's far too big for, you know, the folks in our planning department to take on amongst all the other things that they're doing. So I think it's prudent at this point to bring somebody on board so they can focus on this, make some proposed changes to the development regulations, bring them back for subsequent review. So I think this is badly needed. In fact, I think it's long overdue. You know, like I said, some of them are just so outdated that they don't even make sense, and they are very complex. And to bring somebody on board to specifically deal with this issue, we'll get it done quickly and bring it back to us to help bring these up to par.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions? Input? Somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to
Yeah, I'll make a
approve.
motion
Go ahead, Collis, it's all yours.
to approve the budget transfer request for the reallocation of $8,500 from a full-time wage line to the planning and zoning consulting services line as presented.
Second.
Motion by Collis, seconded by Jim, and there's plenty of money in that line to do that?
There is, because we have a vacancy from the end of the year.
Okay. Any questions, anybody else? Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
I'm a yes.
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 5 yeses.
So that'll roll us right into our next item, the 2021 encumbrance list. That should be tabbed as 6H.
Mr. Chair, we do have one change that came in today.
Go ahead.
On the third page, it was the third line from the bottom of the second PO you see listed, 2020 PO number 139 for CWS fence. That PO has been closed. The department paid an invoice and then we liquidated the balance because the job was done and the guardrail came in at a shorter length than anticipated. So that brings the 2020 or the prior year encumbrances that are still active to $387,544.77.
Danielle, can you repeat that number? 3,000,
387.
Yep,
544.77.
thank you.
Dick, I was gonna ask just a couple of the first two lines of 2020. Why would those still be open?
So the Tyler Content Manager, that implementation project is a very significant one. That's where we would be scanning in our invoices so they get stored with that, as well as generating employee payroll stubs that they can look up online, their W-2s, those kind of. So there's quite a bit of infrastructure that's needed with IT. In addition, that project, we needed to complete a complete overhaul of our Tyler Forms to their new system. So we're finalizing up the Tyler Forms portion of that project. It was a very in-depth project that's still in progress between Finance, IT, and Tyler. And then the Microsoft Office 365, those implementation services, you see there's $3,359.15 left on that PO. IT is doing the final implementation of SharePoint for departments to get their intranet that would be used here in-house to share documents and that kind of thing. So we are still using those implementation services to assist us in that process.
I've always confused why the resurfacing would go on as long as it has. We still waiting for bills to come in on the 2020
Yes.
resurfacing?
Yep,
Which was a project done in 2020 but wasn't finished until this year. Is that how that works? That's usually how that, I'm told it works anyway.
So the other late breaker, we received the invoice, probably our second to last invoice of the year from Continental today, so that was just under $300,000. So the 2020 encumbrance is going to be pretty much gone. There is a little bit of funds from 2020 for the East Union project since we started that one and didn't finish. And then this year it got jettisoned about midstream because of some drainage and concerns at the Mass Road end. I didn't feel we were quite ready to plunge ahead. So we've got some money for that I'd like to carry over as well. That'd be the second piece there. But the majority of that will be gone after the invoice is liquidated that came in today. I expect at least one more from them. We just wrapped up some base paving and reclaim on Catamount, so that's another sizable invoice. And then the 2020 funds, I know you're not talking about that one yet, but might as well blow them up here. The 2021 funds, we do have money in there for all the overlays for streets that were reclaimed this year. We have, I think, 3 reclaim projects that weren't fully completed, but they were budgeted for 2021, so the money that's in there for 2021 will cover those unfinished reclaims plus the overlays. We want to make sure that we have money in the following year in case we go to a default scenario. So that's why the 2021 funds are still there.
And the 6400 on Daniel Plummer Road, you still working on those lights?
We've got equipment ordered, but it hasn't come in yet. So we've got some pedestrian improvements there. And then that project is a multi-year project for all the signals on Mass Road. I think we're going to finish 1 year early, if I can get a lot done next year. But we ran into a little bit of problem with the town engineer missing a significant amount of time this year and then leaving. So I just got buried. I couldn't spend it all, unfortunately. Good problem to have, I guess, in that respect. But so I think when that equipment comes in, that one should be able to be liquidated. It probably will be invoiced before the end of January, but Danielle said the auditors recommend leaving it on there if it hasn't yet been billed when you come to this last meeting of the year, just in case something happens.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody got any questions? So we just have to sign off on that, right? Do you need a motion?
Yeah, I'd be seeking a motion to approve the 2021 encumbrance list as presented with that one modification that Danielle provided on the
2021 and 20, because 20 was where the modification was made.
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we accept the 2021 and 2020 encumbrance list draft as presented with the changes that occurred this evening.
Second that.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Chet. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Myself, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, 500. All set?
Yep.
And we'll go on to new business. I just want to bring up that I received a letter this week. I don't know if you guys got it too, in referencing mask. I think it's probably the time that we talk about it before it gets too far into, I'll read it as soon as I can find it. Here it is. This letter came from June Lynch. Stated by the CDC regarding mask and COVID mask offer protection against all variants. CDC continues to recommend wearing a mask in public indoor settings in areas of substantial high community transmission. Based on a daily number of cases in New Hampshire, currently Goffstown Selectmen should consider a mask mandate in public indoor settings. Thank you, June Lynch. So I'll just bring that up because she called me on it, and I said if she sent me a letter, I would convey her feelings to the board.
So I feel like we've had this discussion before, and one of the biggest issues that came up wasn't an argument about what's real and what's not, but it was enforcement. Am I correct when I say that?
Pretty much.
Wasn't
We talked
enforcement our
about
big-
enforcement, yeah.
Yep. And I don't think that problem's any different than it was in 2020.
I would agree. You could, again, we had a recommendation here in Town Hall, if Derek thinks it's necessary, I think that we can leave that in his plate. If you think we need to have voluntary mask people coming up to the counter and stuff, you could.
So I guess you really have, I guess, a few options. As the governing body, you could make mandates for town buildings. The only one that you do not have oversight on is the library. That's governed by the library trustees. But you could make a vote to require masks in public buildings, in the town buildings, under 4111A. You would, under the health statutes, there is, and this issue went to court down in Nashua, but you could do an ordinance requiring masks at indoor locations. Again, NHMA is recommending, if you were to go that route, would be to do a notice public hearing, also seek input from your emergency responders, and especially police department on, enforcement, that kind of thing. And then I guess the least restrictive would be to continue to allow department heads to I guess, advise their employees and put up signs. What we had done here previously was to put up signs requesting people to put masks on and posting information from the CDC, but at no time were they required here in Town Hall. We have built barriers between the customer counters and employees, and we do have a handful of employees that meet in the conference room, and they have been provided masks, and when we worked with the fire department, they did provide some more than cloth masks, some N95s for them to use as well. So it'd really be whatever the board's pleasure is.
And I guess I would ask, what is our mask supply? And who handles that? Just each department?
So each department's been maintaining their own supply. I know at this point in Town Hall, we do have a supply that we keep on hand that we had purchased with grant funds last year. And we still have an ample supply at this time of the kind of these disposable ones. And the N95s, as Derek had indicated, the chief has shared a small amount with us for specific situations. We don't have a large supply of those particular ones here at Town Hall.
So will we be hurting anything by saying we go back to, we request or, that they wear a mask or suggest like we did before?
We could definitely do that here at Town Hall. I think we have the majority of people that come into buildings and public meetings as well. We'd be happy to put those signs back up.
Mandatory, but recommended.
Yep.
Anybody else?
I like the idea of the department heads make their suggestions and encourage people.
In their departments.
Yeah.
I see department heads all have them on anyway, so. I think they just got their face covered up, they're laughing at us. Cussing under their breath or whatever.
Yeah, good for that.
All right, so Derek, you'll handle that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You don't need a motion on that or anything.
A comment if I could, Peter?
Go right ahead, Collis.
Yeah, I think we should go the softer route of voluntary compliance as we're doing now. If we're gonna go the route of a mandate, if you will, or an ordinance, yeah, I agree, there's two aspects to that are problematic. Number one is enforcement. Who's gonna enforce it, number one? But the other is equally important. What's gonna be the penalty? If somebody doesn't comply with a mandate, what is the penalty for non-compliance? And how are you gonna go about that? So that's why I prefer to continue to go the voluntary route. And, softer approach I think is better at this point, because otherwise I think we're looking at some more significant issues to deal with. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Peter,
Mark?
I don't know if you saw on Channel 9 News this evening, Keene has now enforced, and they have a penalty scale. They give so many verbal warnings, and then it goes up to $100 fine, and from 100 to 250. I agree with Collis 100%. Let's just go nice and steady, easy. I don't think the fine is the way to go just yet. I think we need to see a little bit more direction from the governor of the state of New Hampshire and see what he does and go from there. That's just my 2 cents.
All right, let's go back to our old business. That was new business. This is old business. We're still working on number 1.
There was one item before the action matrix.
Oh, I'm
if
sorry.
you go to tab 7I, that's how it's tabbed in mine. This is an item that came up during public comment at your last meeting about the poll license process. What I put in here is what our current procedure is. Those applications come into the town clerk's office. Kathy sends it over to DPW for review and comment, and then it's included as part of your consent agenda. There are some towns that have a more stringent policy. Bedford and Concord are both examples where they have passed ordinances, and they have a polls and conduits committee that holds regular meetings to review those applications, and the power as by their governing body's been delegated to those. So I guess the two options would be you could maintain your current procedure where DPW is reviewing those, and we could keep it in consent agenda. Alternatively, you could go further and do it as an agenda item and pull it out of consent, so I guess the details are in the packet, or the other option would be to create an ordinance and go a little bit more strict with that.
How often have we had a problem?
But we have not received many comments under the
For the amount
polls
of
and conduits.
polls, I mean, the amount of things that we see like this a year, I'm in
Leave it
favor.
alone.
Leave it
Yeah.
alone.
Leave it
yeah.
alone.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I was on the old business and the action matrix. The first line?
We are still working with the county commissioners. I understand that a private developer has reached out to the county as well, seeking land over in that area, as well as Southern New Hampshire Services has met with the county commissioners about that. They have not developed an RFP as yet, or decided whether or not they want to sell off pieces of the land, do lease, or what they do. But I will get an update from the administrator on that.
Okay. Next thing is, that's still floating?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, the next item. And then pedestrian bridge was still,
The pedestrian bridge, we did get contract or budget estimates back from Hoyle Tanner. Let me see if I can pull it up here. My recollection was,
there's two different numbers. One, just a regular study, and the one for, we would use for going out for a grant.
yep, if you're gonna go out for a transportation alternative, the engineering cost estimate, which includes basically having an engineer on site to oversee the project once it's actually done, would be about $180,000 just on the engineering and the construction oversight. If the town were to fund and just seek out the design from the engineer, it'd be about $110,000. But that's on the engineering side and all the abutment analysis, and would not include any of the construction or anything else of the bridge.
It's a chunk of change. Okay, well, we're at that point, we'll have to, this is something that probably would be, put something together for next year. You're not gonna do anything this year, the budgets and everything's already done, so. And then we have the vehicles. Vehicles out of service, we have one to add to that. Car 3, how long is that gonna be out?
So they're looking in January is when they're gonna take it in.
Can't get anything done anymore. What, you were gonna say something, Derek?
No, I was just gonna say that's when they're gonna take it in, not necessarily. when
Right,
they
they're gonna
return.
take it in January. Are you using it now? No?
Only for emergencies,
Yeah?
yeah.
And the tractor with the turbo issue at Freightliner, that's been there a while.
They wouldn't even accept it. They didn't even want to take it in. It sat in our yard for a bit, and then we got it up there and it sat, so I think they thought they had it narrowed down, but I didn't get an update today, so.
That's warranty?
I don't believe that one is a
No?
warranty
Okay.
repair. No, I don't think so. I do have a semi-update. It's not officially out of service, but we had transmission issues, one with a six-wheeler dump trucks over the weekend. The mechanics just haven't gotten a chance to get into it yet, so it's a soft down at the moment.
Soft down. And we lost an ambulance on Friday in an accident, so that's gonna be a while before we see that back in service. I'll probably have the new one before we get that one. Was the box damaged?
No.
Anybody got anything else? Nope. Anybody here for public comment?
Hey, Peter?
Yes?
I'm sorry, Peter? Can we go back to the stat Rotary Park? Peter, was there any further action after we met with Cynthia Boyd-Bear?
She was gonna go to the board and come up with some numbers, I had understood.
Okay.
We could reach back out to her and see, but that was, she was gonna go to the Rotary and then come back to us.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's my recollection. So the ball's in their court. Probably wouldn't hurt to send out a little nudge to remind them.
Okay,
I will do that, I'll take care of that.
okay.
Thank you.
Again, is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. That'll conclude our public meeting for tonight. We'll be going into non-public under RSA 91-A3, 2 compensation. Got a motion?
Yep, I'll make that motion for a non-public session, RSA 91A32, A compensation, B hiring, and C adversely affect reputation of person and other member of the board. Anything else?
Other than a member of the board.
Is that it, Derek? That's it?
That's it, yes.
Okay.
Collis?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Me, yes?
Yes.
Yes? Jim? That'll conclude our meeting tonight. Thanks for watching.